Beautiful. So again, my name is Rachel Lee. I'm the founder of Ice Bath Boston and Breath. And what we do is we are on a mission to teach everyone nervous system regulation and the tools to be able to help you accomplish any goal that you have when it comes to regulating your nervous system. And we do that with breathwork and ice baths. We won't talk about ice baths today, but I do have one right in front of me in case you're ever interested. Um, and the way that I really got into this was I was living in Mexico in 2022 and I was trying to make friends. And I met a group of people and they said, "Hey, come take an ice bath with us." And I said, "Oh crap. I really want friends, but I don't really want to take this ice bath." And I went anyway, though, and because I was trying to make connections. And so I was guided through an ice bath and I stayed in for 6 minutes. And that was profound to me because I in 2011 was diagnosed with anxiety and major depressive disorder after a really severe trauma in my life. And I have been seeking everything under the sun to try to cultivate the feeling of safety and warmth and just positivity and confidence that I felt in that ice bath. And from then I said, wow, I've tried medication, I've tried therapists, I've tried doctors. I had even become a strength and conditioning coach. I had become a nutrition coach as well. I felt like I had tried everything. And for this to be the thing that made me feel that, I was really impressed. So I said, okay, we have to do this all the time. So I actually took an ice bath every day for a year. And during that time, I became really curious about what was happening behind that. What was going on in my body and my mind that made me feel so good? And from there, I started exploring breath work. And I started exploring, okay, how is the intertwining of specific breathing patterns and specific ways of changing our psychology creating such profound changes in our psychophysiology. And then I moved back here to Boston, where I am initially from, and we started Ice Bath Boston. And initially, we were doing pop-ups all over the place, but now, since this past summer, we've been so grateful to have this wonderful space here. So I have to collect a wide variety of breathing techniques to evaluate the literature behind them to be able to give you a multitude of different tools. And so that's what we're going to do today. So the first part of our agenda is we're just going to go over what is breathwork. And then we're going to talk about how can breathwork help manage chronic pain and how can you incorporate breathwork into your daily routine. So we're going to do some really easy, I promise they're not fancy or really intense breathwork exercises. And I will also email you a handout with some tips and tricks and some of these exercises for you to take away and to integrate into your daily life. So to get started, what is breathwork? Breathwork is any any purposeful way of breathing with awareness, intention, and attention to improve physical, mental, and emotional health. And so what's really interesting is that, cool, we can be breathing at rest normally and not even paying any attention to it. Breathwork is simply just any time we are intentionally regulating the breath. And the way that I like to view breathwork is that the breath is the Swiss Army knife. There are a million and one ways, as I've said, to breathe. However, when you're using a Swiss Army knife, right, there's usually a specific tool on that that does a task better than others. And that's what we try to do for you. We are helping you find the right tool for your unique experience with pain, with your unique anatomy, with your unique psychology as well. So you can find the best tool that works for you. But in order to do that, sometimes we have to try out a bunch of different types of tools. And there are a lot of different types of breath work. There is slower breathing, which is usually a little bit more common. The Ujjayi breath, if you've ever taken a yoga class, that is more common in yoga. Diaphragmatic breathing, nasal, paced breathing, any certain types of counts, resonance or coherence breathing, that aligns your heart rate variability with your respiratory cadence. Faster cadences as well. Strength, there's actually breathing techniques that can strengthen your respiratory muscles. Breathwork that specifically focuses on mechanics. And that is something that we do a lot of here. And then kind of there's so many other types that there are other types that focus on breath holds or using other parts of the body to regulate the breath. And these are some great interventions when it's too hard to already focus on the breath, because that's the other part is we help you find the best starting point for you. And breath work is old. Breath work is ancient. We've been doing different types of breathing for millennia. And we can see the lineage of a lot of these types of breath work in really ancient yoga and prana, or prana is the Sanskrit word for breath practices. So that is the general overview of what is breath work. Now let's get into how can breath work help manage chronic pain. So imagine you hit your elbow. At first, the pain is really sharp, right? And it's intense. And your brain is hyper-focused on the physical sensation of that injury. But as time goes on, even though that physical injury might have healed, you may still feel pain in your elbow if you think certain types of thoughts around that elbow that could initially lead to lingering emotional and stress pain. And so, for example, what if you had that elbow hit and you were also thinking, I can't focus on anything else but my elbow? Magnification of the pain. What if it was, I'm so clumsy, I always seem to get hurt? That's negative self-talk, criticizing yourself for getting hurt and blaming yourself for the pain. What if this pain never goes away? Those are thoughts that reflect a fear of pain and anticipating future pain or discomfort, which can create anxiety and tension. What if it were catastrophizing? Something like, I'm never going to be able to use this arm again. And imagine we just hit the elbow like walking into a door or something like that. And that's exaggerating the severity of the pain injury and in our brain trying to tell us that it's worse than it actually is. And what if it's something like avoidance, or I'm going to have to avoid using this arm from now on? And that's telling ourselves, oh, we can't do activities that might trigger the pain, which can actually limit mobility and increase feelings of, oh, goodness, I just can't do this. And then comparison too. Comparing your pain to someone else's or minimizing its severity, which can lead to feelings of isolation or inadequacy, such as Johnny broke his arm, but he's doing fine. Why am I still in pain? And it's not to say that your pain isn't real at all. Your pain is so real. It is your experience. It's your subjective reality. And that's hard. And as humans, though, just because we are perfectly imperfect humans, it's really hard not to think these thoughts. We're human. We have one body, and pain can be really scary. And it's really important to know that these thoughts can creep in unintentionally. How we cope, the thoughts that we think in a stressful situation, is developed when we're really young. And it's often mimicked by how we saw other adults in our world coping. So we mimic that, and that's usually what we do. But this can create a negative feedback loop where the fear of pain leads to more tension. So the thoughts about the pain lead to tension in the body, because that's what happens when we're in fight or flight. That's what happens when we're in a stressful situation. We feel tense in our body. It's a bracing mechanism. And that tension can lead to a greater feeling of pain, which can actually increase the perception of pain. And over time, this can make it really hard to manage chronic pain. And we see this in the biopsychosocial model of pain. So total pain experience is actually a sum of bio, or the actual activation of pain fibers, psycho, or pain emotions and how we interpret the pain, and then pain behaviors, so the social aspect. So pain is a subjective experience with really large individual differences. And therefore, it's the interplay between context, interpretation, and understanding of pain, which creates the entire pain experience. And this includes not only the biological, psychological, and social factors, but also our genetic factors and any comorbidities as well. Some of the most fascinating studies where we've seen this are images of the brain. So a 2013 study actually mapped the brain in people experiencing acute, so short term, I hit my elbow, but in this study, it was low back pain, and chronic pain, so lasting more than 6 to 12 months. And it scanned these brains over time. So it scanned 3 regions: the pain regions, the emotion regions, and the reward regions. And then it overlapped them on top of each other. And what we saw was that in persisting pain that transitions from short to long lasting, which they define as greater than 6 months, the brain regions initially encoding the pain were the pain and reward centers primarily. But over time, that response diminished. And as the back pain continued to persist, activity in another set of brain regions emerged, the emotion and reward areas of the brain. And so this means that when we first feel pain, our brains light up in areas that are specifically designed to detect physical pain. But over time, as we continue to experience the pain, our brains focus less on the actual physical sensation and more on the emotional and psychological aspects of it, emotion and reward. And this means that it's not just about how we feel pain in the physical stimulus. It's also influenced by our feelings, our thoughts, and our experiences. And so I think this is a great quote because it means, okay, suffering may be related as much to the meaning of pain as our intensity. Think about it. If any time we've had kind of a health issue and we haven't known, that's so much scarier than when we finally are like, oh, that's the cause. That means a solution. That only is changing the meaning of pain. It's not changing our emotions. It's not changing the actual sensation of the pain. It's only changing the meaning of it. And so that means because of the relief that we find that occurs because the anxiety is reduced when we understand the source of pain and the pain is no longer a threat or a treatment, this means that we can change the meaning of pain to your brain. I think of it like a story, right? You get to write the story how you want, just by helping your brain reinterpret the pain. And this is where we see really strong evidence for breathwork in scientific literature. So the way that I like to kind of describe this branches off of Jay and the PhysioX model of detours that you guys know pretty well. So relaxation techniques such as breathwork help decrease the response to pain by triggering a process in the brain where relaxation inhibits the pain signal, so the amount of pain signal to the brain is reduced. This is like a construction on a highway. So therefore, the reduced stress after practicing breathwork can influence the experience of pain. So imagine this. You got to have a highway in your brain that's sending traffic down and it says pain, 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 pain. And it's a 5-lane highway, right? But breathwork kind of acts like construction. Okay, we're closing down 2, maybe 3 lanes, and there's less traffic going down it. And so that's what happens with breathwork and relaxation techniques. This is what we see in the literature. It helps reduce the amount of signals in the brain that are signaling pain. And the way that this relates to Jay's detour model is it actually has been shown that it helps the nervous system reprogram to go down the highway that he's trying to teach it faster, which is really, really, really neat. So let's talk about how this works with the nervous system. So imagine you are this gentleman who had this unfortunate discovery in his shower, this gorilla creature. How would you react? Different? You can throw it in the chat. Drop. Yep. So this situation, what's happening is your survival response is kicking in and your nervous system is turning way on. When this happens, you're not able to think logically. Your brain is offline and it's sounding an alarm. So let's talk about how that looks like in the nervous system. So there are 2 branches of the autonomic, which is easiest interpreted as the automatic part of your nervous system. It is the sympathetic colloquially known as the fight or flight branch, and the parasympathetic, or the rest and digest. So when you are that guy running away, you see something that scares the living daylights out of you, your brain your nervous system turns on an extreme fight or flight reaction. And what we see is dilated pupils. We see you're inhibiting salivation, you're decreasing digestion because you don't need to digest while you're trying to survive. Your airways relax and they open up because it's letting more oxygen flow through so you can oxygenate your locomotor muscles and run, and you're increasing your heartbeat. That one is so familiar. On the other end, we have the parasympathetic, or the rest and digest. In full parasympathetic activation, it drives responses that constrict the pupils. You don't need to scan your surroundings for danger. You're safe. You can focus in. And actually using eyesight is a great way to access the parasympathetic nervous system and get to the breath. You were promoting salivation and digestion. The airways constrict because not as much air needs to go through them, and we decrease our heartbeat. So it's really interesting because it's not a seesaw model. It's actually more like a spring. If you think of your sympathetic nervous system as a spring, a coiled spring, at a normal day when that spring isn't stretched, it's just kind of chilling, like right here, maybe it's a 5 out of 10. That's usually the rate that our sympathetic nervous system is activated when we're working out. Okay, you're exercising, you're breathing a little bit more, you're scanning to see what you're going to do next and whatnot. When we want to relax, the parasympathetic nervous system is best described as a weight that presses down and suppresses the sympathetic activation. So it decreases the sympathetic response, and the response becomes more parasympathetic. And it's really interesting because that in this model, it makes so much sense about why it's hard to relax, because relaxation takes effort. It takes effort. It takes intention to hit this break. And it's hard when we don't know how to do it. So no wonder why it's hard to power down our brains at night and whatnot. So when the parasympathetic is completely disengaged and the spring is stretched to like 10 out of 10, and you're that guy getting a jump scare in the shower, you're running from a tiger, that would be full sympathetic activation. So that's kind of how those two systems come into play. And the way that we activate it through breath work is through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is this beautiful, vagus means wandering in Latin. And it is the 10th cranial nerve. It starts at the brainstem and it goes all the way down to the pelvis. And it is the primary driver of parasympathetic activity. It is the primary connector between the autonomic nervous system and the brain. And this helps reduce stress and anxiety. And it wanders and includes your heart, your lungs, your digestive system, and it's basically scanning your whole body for signs of safety to relay that back to your brain. And so what's cool is it passes through an opening in the diaphragm, which is your primary breathing muscle. It's responsible for 80% of the work of breathing. We do a lot of work on breathing mechanics because in modern day, with sitting and just being hunched over and being so busy and stressed all the time, we're actually using our diaphragms less. And so that means that we're getting less of that vagal activation just from breathing. Vagal tone actually means vagal activity. It's measured in heart rate variability. So if you have like a tracker or anything, you might have seen your heart rate variability. Higher levels of heart rate variability mean better parasympathetic activity. And so we can activate this with different types of breathing that promote vagal tone. Vagal tone is just like muscle tone. It's okay, cool. If we can enhance activity of this nerve, it will become easier to access it and relay the messages that we want it to, just like a muscle. So different types of breathing activate vagal tone, and these are some of the best ones for chronic pain. So breathwork's effects on the body and mind are really prominent in the literature, and there are many. So the first is it changes brain structure. By changing activity in an area of what's called the default mode network, which is the area that in the brain that lights up when we're thinking about ourselves. In chronic pain, this part of the brain is paying attention more and connecting the pain to feelings, making pain worse and last longer. Research shows that breathwork can help chronic pain by reducing the activity of the default mode network in areas related to pain and emotions, making that pain feel less intense. It can also improve emotion. So breathwork has been strongly found to enhance positive emotion and reduce negative emotions such as anxiety, depression, stress. It enhances active coping. So maladaptive coping mechanisms, like pain avoidance that are driven by a fear of pain, are actually shown to lead to greater disability. And on the flip side, active coping is associated with low levels of pain, anxiety, depression, and impairment, and high levels of functioning. And so this is really interesting because as humans, we cope super unintentionally, unless it's something we've spent hours thinking about. We develop our coping mechanisms through what we saw other people doing when we were growing up. And we develop deeper coping mechanisms that are impressed into us through our experiences. And so by just taking a second to think of, okay, when this pain trigger hits, what is the first thought or the second thought, and what are my behaviors doing to that? That can actually change how we cope with pain on a regular level and help improve emotion. We can improve breathing mechanics. There's a large correlation between low back pain and respiratory dysfunction. One possible explanation for this is that poor breathing mechanics perpetuate anxiety and therefore intensify pain. There's also a big relationship between neck pain and faulty breathing mechanics. And it can strengthen breathing muscles. This is probably something we've never heard of. So our lungs mature between ages 24 and 29. Around age 35, our lung function, like a lot of other things in our bodies, start to gradually and slowly decline. And so strengthening our breathing muscles is something we can do, which is super cool. And as a result, when our lung function declines, though, breathing can slowly become more difficult over time. In the research, individuals with low back pain have a greater susceptibility to diaphragm fatigue. So that means your diaphragm gets tired more easily when you're breathing. And there's a type of breathing strength training called inspiratory muscle training that strengthens the diaphragm. And it has shown in studies to reduce pain severity, which is really cool. So a question that a lot of people ask is, okay, so can breathwork be used in conjunction with other pain management treatments? And absolutely, this has been studied a lot. Studies that evaluated just exercise intervention or kind of like a physical therapy intervention versus pain, for pain versus breathing, plus the exercise and movement intervention found greater and longer term improvements in chronic pain than just the exercise alone. So it's a great pair. We also saw greater long-term improvements in mobility, less pain, and lower anxiety compared to just exercise or relaxation alone. That makes a lot of sense given the biopsychosocial model of pain.
I want to chime in on this a little
Yes,
bit,
please.
based on my experience working with a ton of people in chronic injuries, is that when someone's nervous system is highly elevated and they're unable to go tap into the parasympathetic state, the exercise we do is almost irrelevant because it wouldn't work because the body isn't ready to accept the changes that the exercises are ready to produce. And that's the reason why we even have the clinic designed the way it's designed, is so we can tap into that nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system right as you walk in. So yeah, I just want to double up and piggyback on your point here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to like really shout out PhysioX because this is not a common approach at all. And it's a huge testament to Jay and the whole PhysioX team for going this pioneering route, and taking a more holistic look at pain, which is really, really cool. So how can we incorporate breathwork into our daily routine? So if there's anything you remember from this entire presentation, and if you remember nothing, that's okay. A lot of times things go in one ear and out the other in mine. So if the 3 keys to breathing are keep the breath low. So let's do a little exercise right now. If you put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, kind of where your thumb can be right where your ribs are meeting where the lowest part of your ribs, and the fingertips are on the belly. And I just want you to close your eyes, and I want you to take 3 deep breaths, please. And notice which hand moves first on your inhale. Is it the hand on your chest, your shoulders coming up? Or is it the hand on your belly that's moving first, and it's moving the belly in horizontally and out? Or is it both? Once you have a defined answer, you can remove your hands and open your eyes. So, which one, type in the chat, which one moved first? The top or the bottom, or both? Both. So awesome. Thank you so much. So the diaphragm sits right below the lungs. And if you take your hands and put them right on your sternum, right here, and then walk your hands down the lower part of your ribs all the way to your spine, that's the span of your diaphragm. I like to call it a pizza-shaped muscle in the middle of your body. And you can take your hands and follow me like this. On the inhale, so the diaphragm is kind of actually normally sitting like this. It's like a dome, like an upside down bowl. When you inhale, it presses down and flattens and expands all 360 degrees. And on the exhale, it narrows and it pushes the air out of your lungs. So inhale, flattens, exhale, narrow. So we want the diaphragm to be initiating breathing. It is the primary muscle for breathing. It's what it's built to do in our bodies. And so what we want is to see the breath being initiated here. So we want this hand to be the first one to move. And then what happens is, as the diaphragm is opening, it's opening the bottom of our ribs. It's like a bucket handle motion. It pushes the ribs, the lower ribs out. So if you find the ribs moving in the second part, kind of, that's okay. But we want to keep the breath low and initiating around there. But if you ever notice your breath coming up and down, kind of like your shoulders, you get a little taller, you get a little shorter, that's one sign that, okay, the breath might be impacting psychology deeply because we're not starting with the diaphragm. So keeping the breath low, and that's a great exercise to do, especially when we're stressed, is to take 3 seconds and say, where am I breathing from? And just that simple act of awareness can help us become more centered and help to restore a little bit more parasympathetic function. The breath 99% of the day should be in our nose. And the reason why is because the nose is built to filter, humidify, and to warm air. It also slows down the breath by adding resistance, and it strengthens the diaphragm. And so what's really interesting is that when studies have found too that breathing through your nose might also be a parasympathetic relaxer. The olfactory bulb in the brain may be picking up on signals from that. So the equivalent of breathing through the mouth is kind of like drinking dirty pond water. I apologize for that metaphor, but it's one that always sticks with people. And so if you wake up with a dry mouth, that may be a sign that you're breathing through your mouth at night, which is usually a precursor to snoring or sleep apnea, which can be a comorbidity and complicating factor of chronic pain as well. That's where the trend for mouth taping comes from. It's just to close the mouth a little bit to make you breathe through the nose. So low nose and slow. The only time we should be breathing fast is when we are exercising at a high intensity or when we are trying to survive, when we are really focused on pure survival. Think about it. The only time you're breathing should be if you're running from a tiger or getting or perhaps sometimes that happens when we're getting a really scary email from our boss, because evolutionarily, our bodies don't know the difference between getting chased by a tiger or that scary email. So breathing slow. There is a cadence that we're going to do in a little bit that is a great cadence that you can do anytime. But slowing the breath down and just being intentional about it. So let's do a couple of exercises. Breath awareness is the first one. We just did it. That's the one where we put our hand on our chest and on our belly and saw which one moved first. Let's do a couple more. This one is called a rock and roll. So the rock and roll is interesting because what you're going to do is you're going to sit on the edge of a chair, and forgive me, I'm on a stool and I'm 5'2", so I'm a little short. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit on the edge of a stool, and I can unshare screen. Okay, hold on. Stop share. Beautiful. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit on the edge of the stool. You're going to put your hands on your diaphragm so that thumb is on the bottom rib, the fingertips are on the belly here. And what you're going to do is I want you to exhale, and I want you to squeeze your belly in and round the back. You might even squeeze your glutes. Inhale, arch your back. Let the belly inflate like a balloon. Exhale, hips come up, hips tilt backward. We squeeze. Inhale. Giving yourself permission to expand. Now, the next challenge is I don't want your shoulders moving a ton forward and backward. The goal is for no one to notice you're doing this on a Zoom call. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Good. So that's one that you can do. I find that one is particularly useful in clients who sit all day and who doesn't sit all day. And so maybe once an hour, once every couple of hours, maybe right before your lunch break, right before you get to leave for the end of the day, just doing that gentle spinal massage. The purpose of that exercise is you are forcing the breath to be initiated more diaphragmatically. And a lot of times people are so concentrated up here with stress and anxiety that just getting the breath to initiate lower and getting some hip into it feels really nice on the low back. And it also can give our spine some of the, like a little massage almost, so to speak. So that is the rock and roll. The next one, this one, I don't really need to stop share anymore. Beautiful. Okay, here we go. The next one is coherent breathing. This one feels really, really nice. So all for this one you're going to do is you are going to inhale for 5 counts, trying again to keep the breath low if you can. And you're going to exhale for 5 counts. This is the frequency at which our respiratory rate synchronizes with our heart rate variability. And so it's one of the best studied cadences for activating parasympathetic activity. So there's an audio I'll send to you. It's with bells. It chimes. There's a chime for the initiation and chime for the exhale. But for right now, I'll count. And we will do this for a minute. So I will meet you on an exhale in 3, 2, 1. You can close your eyes and relax. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, slowing down the rate of the breath, not trying to pack in more air. Exhale, feeling the body sink deeper into the chair. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And you can open your eyes and come back. So that is a breathing cadence. How do you feel after that one? That was only a minute. Usually I like to do that for 10 minutes with people. If we have more time at the end and you guys really like, we can do more of that if you'd like. But so this is the cadence. it's really wonderful because it gives you enough time to slow your rate of breathing down. And when I say rate, I want you to think of your breath like a faucet, like a kitchen sink. You have it at a full intensity, it's rushing, right? Or you can turn that intensity down and make it more like a trickle. The slower the cadence is, the more you want to slow the rate of the breath down. So from a rushing, it's not about packing more air in or squeezing more air out. It's about how can we slow down the rate. Because there's a really wonderful natural phenomena in our bodies called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. This is a phenomena at which when we inhale, our heart accelerates, and when we exhale, our heart rate decelerates, it gets slower. So simply by extending the exhale, we can activate more of our parasympathetic nervous system and respiratory sinus arrhythmia. And this is interesting because coherent breathing, it's at about 6 breaths per minute, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And 6 breaths is really slow. Normally we breathe at 12 to 18 breaths per minute. So we're slowing it way, way, way down. The next sequence is called 4-7-8 breathing. And in this sequence, what's really, really, really nice, and actually, we have more time, so we're gonna skip the 7. We'll integrate it in a second. We're just gonna do 4-8 breathing. You're gonna inhale for 4 counts. You're gonna exhale for 8 counts. So this is longer than before. You might notice it might be a little bit more challenging. Try to slow your rate down a little bit more. So we're gonna inhale for 4, exhale for 8. I'll meet you on the inhale in 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 more. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And rest. Was that one harder, easier? How did that feel? Relaxing. Good. You're good. Awesome. Harder. Yeah. Brandon liked the first one better. 5-5 is nice. It's easy to remember. It's a great default pattern. And the thing that I like to remember that I really like about breath work, and what I like to say to people, is when it comes to relaxing and decompressing, sometimes we don't have an hour to go to a yoga class or to sit in our car and decompress. Sometimes we don't have 10 minutes to take a nap. Sometimes you have one breath. So what is the best breath you can take? And some of these are pretty good candidates, I might say. So the next one is 4-7-8 breathing. I want to say something about breath pauses. So there's a lot of different types of breath work that incorporate a hold of the breath. What's happening there is your body is exchanging oxygen for carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what we exhale. Now, if we have a tendency to breathe fast and shallow, which is pretty common in the adult population these days due to stress, it can be really uncomfortable to hold our breath. We are very sensitive to carbon dioxide. Now, what that means is this 7 count hold in the middle. So we're going to inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. The 7 might not feel good, and that's okay. You can skip the hold altogether, or you can make it shorter. the beauty of breath work is that it can be super adapted to you. And as long as you're being intentional about your breath, you're not doing it wrong. So I'll meet you guys on the inhale for this one in 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 2 more. 2, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can open your eyes. How'd that one feel? Was the hold uncomfortable for anyone? And if so, that's totally okay. You liked it, Francis? Awesome. A bit anxiety provoking at first, and then holding, and then alleviating. Tough to hold at the end. Yes, trying to inhale more air in the 4 seconds. That's a really, really great point too, because the difference on the inhale and the exhale means, oh, we got to get more air in, then we got to hold it. So that's okay too. You're adjusting the faucet. That's breath flexibility is a hallmark of a healthy breath. Our breath needs to be adaptive and responsive to changing conditions. So wonderful job, guys. Awesome. The last part of what this work is all about too is, sure, we can just breathe, but what if we breathe and kind of dispelled some of these cognitive distortions that are really, really common in every single human being, but also in chronic pain prognosis? And what if we replace them with something else? And in my own personal life, I will say that learning about cognitive distortions has been so helpful because I'm like, oh, that's how my brain twisted that thought. And that's all cognitive distortions are. They're ways our brain twists our thoughts and makes them less reflective of our subjective reality, of our reality. And so one of them is catastrophizing. My grandma used to do this one all the time. She was like, Rachel, what if the plane goes down? Like if you go on a plane. All or nothing thinking, emotional reasoning. When you feel a way, some way, it must be true. Magnification of the negative, minimization of the positive. Those two often go hand in hand. Mind reading, self-blaming, other blaming, filtering out the positives, overgeneralizing, using should or must statements, fortune telling, labeling, and jumping to conclusions. And so a lot of the work that we do in this space is pairing, okay, what cognitive distortions are we prone to as humans, just human beings, perfectly imperfect, and how can we replace them with thoughts that may help improve our pain experience more? And so this could be a whole hour talk all on its own. I just wanted to touch on it. But for me, even just knowing that the concept of cognitive distortions existed and recognizing what ones am I most prone to using, that helped me think, okay, what's the evidence against this cognitive distortion? Like, let's be lawyers. What's all the evidence against them, against that reflects the actual entire situation? What's perhaps an alternative perspective? And then how can I incorporate that into thinking about this situation from a different perspective? And re-angling my thoughts on it. So
I want to.
I will, yes,
I'm
please.
just going to chime in on this a little bit because hear this a lot, especially with my folks with a little more chronic pain. Is fortune telling is something that was it's very common. So things we will hear with fortune telling with our clients is will be, well, it doesn't hurt yet, right?
Mm.
Because when we speak to us in this way, if it doesn't hurt yet, we are predisposing us to making this the reality later on. Because once we do feel worse after doing a certain activity, now it reinforces that you are right, right? So I love to say, hey, look, if it happens, it happens, but there's no need to predict it right now because you just by predicting it, you have increased the chance of this negative phenomenon of happening because strangely, our nervous system loves to bring our thoughts to reality. This goes beyond the body, it goes beyond everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really, really, that's a really great point. And I suspect also in your experience, you've seen the fortune telling also leads to avoidance behaviors. So I think I know what's going to hurt when I do that, and therefore I shouldn't do that, which leads to greater disuse.
Right. And our goal is really, can we find everything in the power to disprove what you think about what's going to
Yes,
happen in your body? And we just have our own little tools. But I think that the breath work is the crucial part of it because sometimes we need that to interfere that cycle before we get into the other things, toolboxes that we have.
absolutely, absolutely. And so pairing the alternate mantras or thoughts that we're able to think with the breath work while you're breathing. What's an alternate thought? No worries, Cal. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
We will send you the recording of everything else,
Yes.
Carolyn.
Um, and so changing the mantra, pairing your breathing with a different thought, that can be life changing. It can completely change your perception of the pain and therefore your entire pain experience. Overall, let's put it all together. The most successful breathwork prescription, as rooted in the literature, at least 10 minutes per day. 10 minutes is a nice dose. It's not an hour. It's not even 15 minutes. It's 10 minutes. With some people, I even break it up into a 5-minute session in the morning and a 5-minute in the evening. The most important thing I'll say is to try to do it not right when you're falling asleep. You want to train the brain to know how to relax for when it needs to go to sleep. So we want to activate some of these pathways beforehand. The research does show that as we're paving a new road, right? Jay talks about this all the time with highways. It takes consistency. So in terms of how long do I need to do it in order to have lasting results, the research shows about 3 months or 90 days. And so consistency is key. And that's why the dose is so small, because it's a small dose, but often, and that trains the brain of, oh, I can go down this pathway that is not catastrophic pain. It's, oh, I'm able to function. I'm able to feel good. And maybe there might be some pains there, and it's going to be less though. And the great thing, do the best type of breath work for you. So we went over a couple different tools today. There's a multitude of others. And our job is to help you experience a variety and find the best concoction of breathing exercises for you. So where to go from here? Jay and I are very excited to announce that existing PhysioX clients get a free breathing mechanics screen and $300 off any package of sessions with Ice Bath Boston. We do 8, 12, and 24 session packs. If you are interested in checking it out and coming in for a free screening, we're here. We'd love to. Email hello@icebathboston.com. And there are stages of what this work looks like. First, it's restoring mechanics and exploring tools. Then it's establishing consistency and the relaxation pathway. And last, if we are at that point, we can enhance endurance for respiratory longevity, and make sure that you are able to feel like you're taking a good breath for life. So Joanne, great question. Is that what you're going to bring up?
No, I was one comment to this that I know some of you guys on this call are finished with your package, but this offer is still valid for you guys on the call today. So I would say our current clients and even our previous clients who have worked with us before, if this is something that you find useful, I think is definitely worth getting a free mechanic screen of what your breath looks like, and then move forward from there if it makes sense.
Yeah. If I do this while I am in pain at night, so while you're in pain at night, can you do these exercises to reduce pain? Yes, absolutely. Because it's as we say in life, right? It's easiest to do something maybe when we're not hiking up the mountain, but if we're doing it while, it might feel okay. It might feel slightly more challenging than when you're not having a pronounced experience of pain, but you'll get even more out of it, because what's happening is you are redictating that pain story in the midst of the moment and telling your brain, no, we're not going to go down this normal pathway. We're going to go down a different one. And we're going to be able to re-regulate in order to change the pain experience. And so that's an excellent question. And I intentionally try to choose ones that are really calming, really relaxing, and can be done lying down too. So great question. Did I answer that adequately, Joanne? Okay, great. Awesome. Wonderful. So thank you guys so much for your time today. It's 12:55 and I don't like being held hostage on a Zoom meeting longer than promised. So I promise to end on time. Please email me, get in touch with Jay if you're interested about learning more. And we will send you that handout. So thank you guys so much for today. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah. And if you guys have any questions in this last couple minutes, it's your time to ask.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. If not, then I guess I will wrap up the call. So Rachel and I, we met, I think maybe over a year ago. I went to one of her
It was only a year.
It seems like a much longer, and I always knew I wanted breath work and ice and something that's more in tune with the nervous system, and we want to offer that into our place. And I thought about doing everything myself, like bringing in this entire realm, and I realized there's a lot that I don't know, and I just can't possibly handle all that load. So having Rachel, this expert, come in and facilitate all this for our clients and having this partnership has been truly meaningful for us and for everyone that we serve. And one of the biggest things I would like to let everyone know is that pain and injury, they don't coincide together. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions that we've been dealing with in the last, I think, recent decade. I forget when this was discovered, but it's really recent. And the story went like this. There was a gentleman climbing on a ladder, fell off a ladder, and landed right in his boot into a nail, pierced right into his boot. And he was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. Every single bump he felt, like 10 out of 10 pain. But once he got to the hospital, the doctor took his shoes off and found out the nail never pierced his foot. And that was in the British journals. And that was the beginning of when we started to do more research about pain and realize that the injuries, the physical injury that you have in your body doesn't necessitate that it's going to correlate to the pain experience that you have, because the pain comes from the brain. So if there is no so there's always different components to pain. There's maybe some physical injuries that we need to take care of. There's biomechanics. These are the things that we really do a good job of. But if the pain have more of a percentage origin in the what we call the biopsychosocial realm, in which it doesn't correlate back to the injury as much, then that's really where Rachel will really shine as far as completing that puzzle piece for our clients. So that's just something I want to throw out there and let everyone understand.
Yeah. There's I think I just went through this one yesterday. It was a 2018 study, of a great study about what low back pain is and why we need to pay attention. It was in the Lancet, and it found that so chronic back pain is actually which is probably one of the most common things you see. It is the number one cause of disability worldwide, and less than 10% of individuals can find a physical cause for it. So it's just another very interesting fact along those lines.
Very interesting. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. We're gonna send information out to everyone on this call who signed up to have Rachel's information, the promotion that we're offering right now. And I do highly recommend everyone at least take up for the free breathwork assessment by Rachel. I think you guys will find it very useful.
And if you want to get in the ice bath, it's here. Franklin, you tried it. And you don't have to get all the way in it too. Another day we can talk about ice baths and pain too. But
Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining. I will see some of you guys soon.
Thank you.
bye.
Later.
Thank you, Joanne. I really appreciate that. Have a great day.
Hey, Franklin. I'll catch you soon, Franklin. Okay.